Hi, Jennifer.
Hey, Lisa.
Welcome in Amsterdam.
Thank
Familiar place to you?
Dankjewel.
Yeah, alsjeblieft. Just this morning, when I was thinking about our talk, I realized we have played on 4 continents together. And I can't say that about many people.
No, I think you probably are the only one.
Yeah,
I can say that.
That we share that with. There's still one to go. Or, well, 2. No, wait.
Several.
Anyway, we've known each other for a very long time, and we met in one of those other continents, in North America, in Philadelphia, while studying. What do you remember about that time?
I remember that another violinist said to me, "There's this new powerhouse girl from the Netherlands, and we should get her for our string quartet." And I was like, okay. That is the first time I heard about you.
And that is what happened, because we ended up playing quartet. Not just 1 year, but the 2 years that I was at Curtis. And what do you remember about our time working together then?
I mean, we were like 2 people with strong personalities.
Yes.
That
has not changed.
That has not changed at all. So in a way, like learning together how you put things together as a group and how you navigate personalities and things, but also like I guess probably we both feel really sentimental about that time and those pieces and I remember those concerts really still so vividly.
Yeah. No, and it has sort of made the foundation of our chamber music life that developed later on. What I would love to know, and would love the viewers also to know more about you, is what brought you where you are now. That's of course very general, but where did you first feel this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
I guess my journey is maybe quite different from yours in a way, and in that I don't have parents who are musicians, and music was for me something that I did for fun early on in school, and it was really a totally self-driven path that when I wanted to actually have viola lessons, my mom said, well, if you want to practice, you can have the lessons. So eventually I was thinking, okay, let's try this practice thing. And so I was probably, in high school when I thought, actually, this is my one true love. It's what I want to do. And
do you remember, was there a particular piece that sort of triggered you, or situation where you felt like, oh, this is something special?
I think it was more like music was this growing magnet that every year I started having lessons. I started playing in this great youth orchestra that we have in Atlanta. I started playing string quartet when I was 12, and then it was taking up more and more of my time, and I think that this pull of musical life existence became overwhelmingly strong, that I was finding my own sense of who I was through doing that. And then it got to the point where I thought, well, is who I am, so I can't do something else, even though I was going to this kind of hardcore academics high school, and I wasn't around other people who had the same ambition or love for music as me. But
did you see someone, or did you meet someone that lived that type of life sort of early on, that you felt like, oh, that is a real possibility to...
Not really. I mean, I think that was because if you don't grow up in a kind of musical capital, and of course I was seeing great musicians come to the symphony or come and go and things like that, and I knew professional orchestral musicians, but I think it was actually going away to these great summer music programs that especially in the United States, you have these long summer camps where I would meet other kids from other places who were like me, that helped me understand much more what was possible.
And that actually brings me immediately to my main interest of what I want to know from you. You are the artistic director, or the brain and the founder and the mother of an amazing festival in Brazil, the Lumina festival. Well, I of course know a little bit about it, but what can you tell people watching sort of what started the inspiration sort of for it, and what do you want to achieve with it?
So Lumina was this combination of factors that I guess in a way, you never know exactly why major things in our lives come together when they did, but Lumina brings together a lot of my personal interests with my musical side, in that it is also a social project, a talent development model, and it's a way to, together as a group of international artists from very different backgrounds, to work together on thinking how we can make music and the world by extension more fair, that equal talent should get equal opportunity. And there are hundreds of thousands of young musicians coming from places around the world who have incredible talent, but absolutely, no obvious access to the world where we get to perform, and the stages where the amazing music schools that we got to go to. And that was something that has always really bothered me, and I felt I was at a stage in my life and career where I wanted to start seeing if I could do anything about it. And I had this chance to meet a lot of amazing young people from Sao Paulo, and so this idea came together. I said, let's make this collective of artists where it's not just about making music, but it's about actually sensing how togetherness and diversity gives us new ideas. And that's hopefully true for the international soloists who come to the festival as much as it is for the younger people who, are getting the chance to live and work alongside people like you, which is an amazing opportunity, and then to go and study abroad at top class conservatories.
Yeah, with the help provided. No, because I the link I want to see if there's, from how you started to experience music when you were younger, whether that influence, and also what you thought should be a possibility for the students in Brazil.
Totally.
With these music camps, sort of where there is, where you suddenly meet more and more people that feel the same as you do about music.
In the end, I guess I can see very much for you in Delft, in a way, like any festival where you're an artistic director, in a way should be some culmination of, have the imprint of who that person is, and those different influences. I think for me, actually, the biggest inspiration for Lumina was my own family background, in that both my mom and grandmother were amazing musicians in their own right, without training. And my mom was a brilliant singer, but her mom, who grew up in the Depression era South and was Cherokee Indian and had no resources as a younger person, she had an incredible ear, and she could really sit and she could harmonize in her own style on the piano any melody you played, whether that was Rite of Spring or that was like old-time gospel. She would make a personal sense of that. And that's an incredible ear. In some ways I think about what she could do, I'm like, her ear was much better than mine. And yet
it's just a given talent that she had, but couldn't develop
in the same way. And she lived a very musical life. She was a pianist. She taught herself piano. She, I don't think, read music particularly fluently, but she was the church pianist from the age of 12 to the age of 82 or something. And music was a huge thread going through her life. And I, for sure, think about that when I think about Lumina, and actually our sense of what is best from a privileged perspective is deeply flawed, because we don't have a clue, because best might just be out there somewhere,
hidden
in every field, right? And that's where I think Lumina is growing and going places, because it's not just about music. It's about technology and government and writing and cooking and almost anything that actually, if we want the world to progress, we need all the available voices, and we need the chance that talent can find its place.
And do you feel that our world, the way we know it here, is open to that, or is there do you see development in it, that people are opening up their arms and ears and hearts to welcoming those different influences?
I think it's a process like anything else. I think that what I see is that there's sometimes a quite far gap between thinking, this is a good thing and I want this to happen, and actually what it takes to make it happen. It can be very far apart. Or like, yes, we should see a diversity of people on concert stages. Well, what does it mean actually to make that assured? And I think that slowly, if we can speak to our world, the world of classical music is slowly adapting to that. Probably not fast enough. And that's where, in my world beyond being a violist, it's something I care a lot about, is helping to open those doors, and from both sides, that I can now say, okay, maybe if you want diverse talent in your conservatory, here are the reasons I see why it's not happening. In the same way that then the talent who now we're so privileged at Lumina to know and find and have be a part of our universe, we're able to say, okay, here, if you want to go here are these little things, and then hopefully they meet in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. The bigger question would be, what role does music play in general education if you're not necessarily striving for excellence in it and making a profession out of it? How do you see the importance of that? And then connected to that, what is the role then of music in society in general?
Big question.
Yes, a big question.
I mean, I think this idea of general education is, if we believe in general education, then that includes generality. And what I see that's happening in many Western places is this sense of calling something general education, but actually excluding vast amounts of what creates a general education. And if we're thinking of what forms our brains and neuroscience and how we make connections, right, that the traditional idea of a liberal general education is that, like, music can inform math, and math can inform language, and language can inform humanity, right? That's why we call things humanities. And I think sometimes we're losing it a little bit, this sense of that actually information should be more than just information. Otherwise we're computers. Right?
No, we need to be fed sort of in that sense, and not just by economic values.
And so for sure, there are people who have natural talent affinity for math. I'm not particularly one of those people. And does that mean that I shouldn't have learned math? And I think music and art in general is the same, that actually if we want deeply fed, informed humans coming out of schools, right? This experience in music is something very different than needing to be excellent at it.
I completely agree. No. But it's sometimes hard to put it in words, and I know that you do that very well, so that's why I wanted to ask you that question. Coming back to Delft, what I always have tried over the years to do in Delft is to find a theme that somehow relates also to a broader, general, sometimes philosophical idea, a thought, but also to feel the current time a little bit. The title for this year's festival is Brave New World. For some people that is, of course, the association with Aldous Huxley, and that's not such a wonderful picture that he's painting of that Brave New World. With that, so we try to make it more of a just a forward view, so what could be out there. When you think of your Brave New World, what is it that you still want to see in it?
I try to think a lot, actually, that even though the way that our minds might, like to create this sense of order through, this is the pre-pandemic and the post-pandemic, and this is, this is all these events that happen. Still, humanity is a river, and we're in the flow. And I try to remember that actually there is no such thing, in a way, as a Brave New World. There's just evolution of who we are and how we think. And so actually what happens every day is the most important thing. And obviously, I think these major events can make us wake up to where we are. Perhaps we've been not paying attention to, the river's been going, and then suddenly you're someplace that you didn't expect. And I guess what I hope is that we as artists come together more often, one as a group who actually start to believe in collective power. And I think we've been living in perhaps a soloist time. It's all about and now we have Instagram, and it's all about
the individual culture.
And actually, if you think about the power of artists over time, artists had collectives, and they wrote manifesti, and they made statements and had the power of the group. And in different ways that happens. I think Delft and what you made in Delft in your time there is a great example of that you had a vision, that your programming always has had a vision, that you created this beautiful microculture of people who repeatedly went there, and I think that has then informed other festivals. And if you look at my festival, lots of people from Delft have been there, and like that, you get this sense of artists creating something together,
and like-minded people, of course,
right?
want
And
to
finding,
be together,
and then maybe the biggest next step for all of us is saying, okay, now what? Like that. Actually, we are not powerless humans.
No.
And going back to your question about why is music important in society? I mean, everything's important in society, and sometimes I think musicians don't assert enough just how, like, it's not just that playing Beethoven is important, but the act of making, and the act of like what this mirror is of art and culture. I would hope that the brave new world that musicians exist in is something very determined.
Yeah. I think I agree completely. Whether we have the power to shape it, sort of all humans have power to shape. So, but you need to take or believe in that control, and sometimes it doesn't always feel as control. But if you have, as you said, vision, if you have a desire of what something should look like, then you can strive towards it.
And just be inspired, I guess. Like that the little crumbs along the way inspire directions.
Yeah. Inspiration, I think, is also a thing of keeping wonderment alive, sort of that you keep looking at something and seeing the potential in it, or the beauty in it. It can be a tiny thing, and then you think, oh, this I can take along with me in the journey, sort of to say, this could go there. Jen, you're playing during the festival amazing piece by Berio, Naturale. Can you tell us a little bit more about that piece?
Yeah, it's a piece that combines solo viola, percussion, and audio recorded songs from Sicilian market sellers, and it's incredibly expressive. People like selling fish and selling peaches, and each one of those songs has its own incredible cultural kind of imprint. And we've commissioned this film that's going to be playing behind me, which is going to be apparently even I might be in. And I think it's like he uses like every possible sound I think the viola can make. Yeah. And it's just something really, really cool.
Do you know why he used the title Naturale?
I think it was this sense of actually like where, like, I mean, that he was Sicilian, not living in Sicily, and this sense of like, who are you, and how does your own background inform who you are
and shape you towards the future. Great, I'm so looking forward to hearing that piece. Jen, you've been coming to the Delft Festival for many years. What is it about the festival that you enjoy and that you keep coming back?
I mean, number one, I just think the quality of what is made there is incredibly high every single time. People actually rehearse. They really care about what is going into, the rehearsal process. And there's a deep sense of like artistic community that produces concerts that are memorable. And you cannot say that of every festival, which is a huge credit to you, I've got to say. And first of all, second of all, like, I love the audience of Delft. I love Dutch people in general. Like, I lived here for a couple of years, and I'm still just so like deeply connected kind of to Nederlander culture. And the people who are there every year in Delft are just unbelievably special. The volunteers, like the people who work in marketing, everybody who's working at Delft and the people now have become dear friends in the audience. I look forward to seeing them.
Yeah. What are we gonna do without it?
Cry.
Jen, you have an amazing instrument. What can you tell us about your viola?
So my viola is one of the oldest violas, modern violas being played in the world. It was made in 1589. I know. I carry around a very old lady by Gasparo da Salo, who was really one of the fathers, many people say the father of modern violin making.
Yeah. I've been actually to Salo.
It's very beautiful, right?
Yeah.
It's on the Lake Garda.
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very lucky to.
And viola, you always speak about it as this very human voice, obviously, sort of, it has that whole range. Cellists tend to say that about their instruments as well, but I think I agree with you that the viola is sort of most...
I mean, if you took the range of the lowest note of the cello to the highest note on the viola, right, you would probably have close to the full spectrum of all human range.
Yeah.
I'm not sure many people would have the low notes on the cello, but
No.
but yeah, like I also think that this thing about, you know, the viola has these acoustical corks, we would say, where actually, like, the viola is an instrument of compromise, where it, in order to fit between the range of the violin and the cello, it actually had to be, the body of the viola had to be made smaller than what acoustically would have been perfect. So what you have is an instrument that is not perfect. And in that way, I just find a lot of inspiration that we as humans have voices that are not perfect. So the viola is a character actor. The viola is not the leading lady star. Like, the viola can wear a lot of masks, can be so many different sounds. And it's one reason I just always loved it.
And is there one particular piece, in general, if you have to choose from the whole range of repertoire, that you love the most?
No, because I mean, in the end, like, you love your children for different
Yes.
reasons. But I mean, certainly, I guess there are pieces that I have loved playing a lot. I mean, Rebecca Clark's sonata is one of those where it almost became like a signature thing for me that I played it so much. And
You have played it at Delt also.
I have played it at Delft.
Yeah.
I think I've played it. That I've really played
everywhere.
You know, the Brahms songs for low voice and viola are, you know, incredibly dear to me. I think anything where the sound of the instrument is the principal means of expressing itself tends to work amazingly well for viola.
And is there something that you really, really dislike playing?
Oh, there are lots of things. Lots of things. I mean, it tends to be things where the viola just plays the same note for many minutes. I can tend to get a little bored doing that. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll try not to give you that repertoire. Another short question. I started by saying that we've played on 4 different continents together, but besides traveling for music making, you are really an avid traveler, and I would say almost explorer. What is the most amazing place you've ever been to?
Oh gosh, hard to say. It's true that, like, I grew up in spending a lot of time outdoors in the woods, and maybe comes back to some of my Native American background and loving being in wild places. Where have I been lately? Well, I went across Bolivia in the high altiplano, which was absolutely incredible. I've been in the backcountry in Alaska several times, which was each time something really, really amazing. In the end, you know, the Appalachian forests near where I grew up still is probably the place where I feel most myself or most happy. But there's a very long list of places I really can't wait to go.
Still want to go to. Once the pandemic is over and we can travel freely. Yeah. Trick question. How much do you practice?
So the best way to answer this question was the parents' night, the first night of Curtis. My mom and dad went, and they are not musicians. And my mom came back after that night and she said, I feel really irresponsible. She had a very southern accent. So I was like, I feel so bad about this because the man next to me said, how many hours does your child practice? And she said, I don't know. And then later, and I was like, well, what was his name? She said, his name was Mr. Lang. And I was like, Lang? Long's dad.
Oh! I have to tell people we studied together with Lang, and we never saw Lang because he was always practicing with his father in his room. Yeah, while we were out doing fun stuff. Yeah.
We also practiced.
We definitely practiced. At Curtis we practiced a lot.
I think we practiced the most.
Yeah, that's.
You practice every morning at 7.
At 7.
You and Esther.
Esther Hoppo is also coming to the festival.
The practice club.
We met at 7 every morning to go practice. Yeah.
I did not.
Yeah. No, everyone has their own sort of biorhythm, but it's true. And so, children, practice in your student days the most. It's useful. Yeah. Okay, Jen, we're gonna close off with you have to, in 5 words, or use just 5 random words to describe me, and I'll use 5 random words to describe you. Go.
Okay. Hair. Passionate. Schubert. Very generous. That's 2 words. Very generous.
Love. Oh, thank you. Okay. For sure, passionate. Determination. Real. One word. Vision. Generous. All encompassing. I will talk about that last word because
5 words, but all
So in all these years that you've been coming to Delft, is there one particular concert or situation that sticks out?
There are actually so many really strong memories of certain pieces that I played for the first time there, usually with some amount of terror, like Enesco octet, Enesco piano, these like big Enesco pieces I'd never played, but now are just some of my very favorite pieces. I remember playing the eyeglasses duo with Liza Ferschtman, and we wore these funny glasses, and mine broke halfway through and were falling off my face.
I remember that. Yes.
And then actually Delft was the first place I did Harold in Italy with piano, which I then recorded.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and just also just amazing performances of works that we play all the time together now, like big pieces by Brahms and Schubert Quintet and Schubert Octet, and these things that, like, maybe Delft was this chamber music monolith that took me from my experience as a student, and then we started reconnecting as grown-ups-ish.
Still children.
Maybe we're a bit more grown-up than we were 10 years ago, but that then these pieces started coming back in our lives, but still together, which was such a powerful thing.
Yeah. No, I agree. I remember also all of those moments. I clearly remember our first experience playing Enesco octet, because I think no one in the group had played it, so that meant 8 people were quite clueless and had slightly underestimated it. So we ended up rehearsing several evenings after the end of the evening concert, which meant sort of starting, so maybe having a quick bite and then starting again rehearsing at 11 at night, sometimes going till 1, and getting special permission from the museum to still be able to rehearse there. But the buzz that we felt performing it, I will never forget that.
I just remember, because I remember we were all like the whole time, and then the end with the huge melody with the cello, this ta ya da da, and I was just like, I really hope we're all in the same place. And I remember looking over at Nicola Altstedt, because I knew we both hit it. He was looking at me and I was looking at him, and then we were like,
yes,
like, okay, we made it. like nothing terrible's gonna
But I
happen.
also remember, maybe that was actually the same year, we played a wonderful Frank Quintet with Elizabeth Leonskaya. So that was a great experience. Yeah, Brahms String Quintet. I mean, it's so many great things.
Big
happened.
memories.
Yeah. No, it has been a very special stage, and I think of all people, you were there the most and sort of shared most of the experiences with me.
Very honored.
Thank you so much. What is one project that you are sort of working towards in that brave new world, the future out there?
So right now I'm actually working on turning Lumina into a global structure where we'll be having activities on multiple continents, not just in South America, and actually where the things that we've learned through music and through music education we think can help advance other industries as well. And yeah, like weaving together hopefully this interesting carpet of all the things I love, like music and I think that there's so much potential actually where we as artists can help other industries and other people.
What do you think that they don't know that we can be play a role in?
I think that the biggest thing that so-called classical artists understand, that's to me what's so special about what we do, is that the past is not something we need to throw away. And actually, like style is always changing in what we do too, right? Like we listen to some of our teachers and think, wow, the style is really different. But I think that in the brave new world, there can sometimes be this sense that the only thing that matters
is the new.
Yeah. And actually, as important as the new is, I think that where artists can hold up a mirror to that side of the world and say, hey, like, what has been true all this time, and what has been true can help make the new better and kinder and
more informed
and fair.
Yeah, but I'm so glad you said that, because that's one of the well, it's not a super interesting musical concept, but I just named it that, like the old is the new, with the Brahms Piano Quartet, where it's where people want to throw out, or some people hang on to the past, and some people want to only look at the future. But for me, I think one of the biggest values of music is that it is it deals with universal sort of, if we do speak from the emotional side, it deals with universal emotions in a non-spoken way that is completely timeless. Sort of, so the personal feeling someone might have had 200 years ago and wrote music about it actually is not at all different than what we experience as a human now. Political situation might be different, the world around us might really look different, but how we are as people, I think, evolves very slowly, but the basic emotions stay the same.
Yeah.
And that is where music can play a role in somehow reflecting that back at us also. Why do we still feel connection to a piece from 1790?
Exactly, yeah.
I think for those reasons, and that's why we need that history also.
And also just that there are not so many places where I think people can exist through experience, that it's not really about processing information and scrolling information and thinking about what is the agenda and what do I have to do and where do I have to go, but actually music is one of these true intangibles. And I think that can actually be almost uncomfortable for a lot of people, because they're like, what should my mind be doing? Like, and I think also for younger people where things like anxiety is a huge issue. And I think that actually that's where music provides something extremely beautiful and relevant no matter what. That actually, if you can just be somewhere and you give up control in a way and you experience and you take in this incredibly powerful thing that is harmony and all of this kind of array of emotion and tension and release that exists in harmony and a melody too, obviously by extension, that's something unique I think, in human existence, which
Yeah.
is why music has always been this way to tell stories, right? And the fact that in our tradition we hold those stories, right, and we love those stories, and we take those stories forward, is why I never get bored with this.
Never ever.
Not
Never
possible.
ever. Jen, I was so glad to talk to you, and I will see you in Delft.
See you on the stage.
Yes, and before.
We hope.
Yeah, we will rehearse.
There will be rehearsal.
There will be lots
in Delft,
of rehearsal.
there will be.
Yeah,
Guaranteed.